Today is probably one of the most important news days in Canada. We are taking a look at groundbreaking moose on the road, and a woman pulls up to it in Canada. You might be thinking, where's the catch? What politics? What? No, that's Canadian news today. And then an animal was born at the Winnipeg Zoo. That's not all, though. That's not all. There's actually some stuff about NATO that we're going to be taking a look at. But Canadian news actually involves these things. I'm not even joking you. CTV has it. Video shows BC woman incredible up-close encounter with massive moose. This is news in Canada. I feel like almost every Canadian has seen a moose, you know? Maybe not the city slickers, but this is Canadian news. Is that moose on the loose right there? I kid you not, the video's 2 minutes long. Wow. Look at that. Oh, hi there. What's your name? There you go. Canadian news, ladies and gentlemen. And it doesn't just stop there. Also, CTV, must be a slow news day. They are reporting that a baby reindeer was born at the Winnipeg Zoo. Let's take a look.
To see the new baby.
Aren't they cute? Well, maybe that big guy doesn't think so, but I sure do. The zoo welcomed 2 baby reindeer last month, and you may spot them in the journey to Churchill on your next visit to the...
All right. In other news, we actually have some politics to take a look at, such as CTV is claiming, now, I feel like this is going to piss a lot of people off, that the Canadian average wages are outpacing inflation, Statistics Canada reports. Now, I don't know who in here has actually gotten a raise that has outpaced inflation, but I don't know anybody that can confirm that this statistic is even remotely true. Average wages for Canadians outpace inflation on a year-to-year basis in April, according to Statistics Canada, the liars. April's earnings sheet, which was released on Thursday morning, reports Canadians earned $1.29 per week on average. That's 44 cents increase year over year, while inflation is just 1.7% in the same period. It just pisses me off that they keep saying inflation is 1.7%. Y'all know why? Because, and we're all thinking the same thing. In 2019, dude, you could go and you can get like McDonald's meal for like $7.50, $8.99 2-can dine. Now it's like $12.99 2-can dine. Or you go to the grocery store and get a 3-pack of steaks for, I don't know, $30, $10 a steak, maybe. Now it's like $75 or $100. Pack of blueberries used to be $4.99, $5.99. Now it's like $9.99, $11.99. That doesn't make any sense. Our cost of living has literally doubled. But yeah, sure, wages have absolutely kept up with inflation, right? It's propaganda. It makes me angry because I'm thinking it. You're probably thinking it, that what the hell is going on with our cost of living? This doesn't make any sense. But apparently your wages, without you even knowing, have also gone up. I just don't believe it. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that that is even remotely true. But hey, what do I know? I just pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually actively monitor finances, and I'm calling bullshit. Let me know down in the comments if you're also calling bullshit. I think CTV is full of crap. So is Statistics Canada. Now we're going to take a look here at what's going on with the U.S. coverage on Iran. There seems to be a lot of division in America because, well, CNN is saying that it's BS what Trump actually pulled off with the airstrikes.
The CIA and the Donald Trump administration are citing new intelligence this morning they say proves American strikes severely damaged Iran's nuclear program. The director of the CIA says new intel shows several key Iranian facilities have been destroyed. An earlier analysis by the Defense Intelligence Agency suggested the strikes only set the nuclear program back months. This morning, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth railed against media coverage of those early reports.
How about the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission? The devastating U.S. strikes on Fordow destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility inoperable. Here's the head of the UN Atomic Energy Agency this morning, Rafael Grossi. U.S. and Israeli strikes caused enormous damage to Iran's nuclear sites. Don't take my word for it. How about the IDF's chief of staff? I can say here that the assessment is that we significantly damaged the nuclear program, setting it back by years. I repeat, years.
So as mentioned, some early...
It's bizarre that the American media isn't unanimously coming together and saying, yeah, we did awesome. America's the best. Like, that's how it should kind of be working when it comes to military strikes and this, incredible mission that President Trump pulled off, Midnight Stroke Hammer or whatever it's called, like it was probably the most badass military operation that we've really ever witnessed. Like, that's definitely going to be a movie. Pretty much seems like it was based off the last Top Gun movie where they, flew the jets upside down and into the canals and blah, blah, blah. Just super cool. Super cool. I'd love to know what you guys think about that. I'm pretty angry with American media like CNN leaking stuff saying that, oh, it just wasn't effective. It never happened, blah, blah, blah. And then it fuels just this conspiracy within Americans and the rest of the world. And you got the radical left, like, failed journalists in Canada, whatever the names are. I can't even remember. That's how relevant they are. Going around saying, yeah, no, they suck. They're just wasting money. No, that's not how you go about military operations. You support it. You're either in or you're out. And speaking of in or out, now we got to talk about Canada's defense because we can't protect ourselves. We've all been saying this. Conservatives know this. Pierre Poilievre knew this. The Conservative Party knows this. Tom McCair also seems to now know this. Interesting. Let's take a look at what he's got to say.
So let's talk first of all about how realistic this commitment is. We're looking at another 45 to 50 million or billion rather dollars a year. How do we do it?
Yeah, and I was listening to Kevin Page in the clip just before saying that, well, this might require a tax increase. I really like Kevin. I've known him for many years, but he seems to be forgetting that there are actually two sides to a balance sheet. And you listen to the throne speech that was delivered by King Charles III, and you understand that the team that Carney has put together has a steadfast resolve to start shrinking the size and the expenditures of the Canadian federal government. And it's understandable. We had a 9% increase per year through the 9 years of the Trudeau reign. The government itself, the size, the number of bureaucrats rose by an astounding 40%. And at the same time, we were giving $20 billion a year to private companies to do the work the bureaucrats weren't doing. So obviously, things had completely broken down. There was no management. You can't talk about mismanagement. There was no management of the federal budget. So what we're seeing now is a proposed increase, a good chunk of which will be infrastructure. So we've been neglecting infrastructure on our coasts, our ports, the north. I mean, we're the country that has these massive fronting on three oceans, the Pacific, the Arctic, and the Atlantic, and we're not capable of defending ourselves. The North is a good example. We have underinvested there. There is so much that needs to be done. Much of it will generate work in Canada. Prime Minister Carney yesterday gave a very good example talking about icebreakers. Those are going to be built in Canada, unlike the BC ferries that for some reason are being built by companies in China that are related to the government. But I think that that's going to have to change as well, and the Canadian government is actually financing that, bizarrely enough. But
I'm glad that Tom McCair is speaking up about the Chinese boats that the BC government is somehow orchestrating because we should be building that. C-SPAN right here in Vancouver can build the boats. Now they're too full. Yeah, suck it up. How about you hire more staff, huh? Or else we're going to have to go somewhere else. How about we get that done right here in Canada? It's insane to me that the government of Canada can point at other countries going, hey, they might be an economic threat. Let's give them more business. We don't agree with their practices. Let's give them more business. Canada first, elbows up, but let's give China more. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. How is there not mass outrage by the left that voted these frauds in, right? It blows my freaking mind every time.
With regard to defense spending, I think, Marcia, it's false to simply affirm that that requires a tax increase. It doesn't. It requires some management. It does. And Canada has not had that for the past 9 years. And we're finally starting to get it with the team that Carney's put in place. Their job, to make the place work properly, to make it more efficient, the way you'd run anything else except the federal government under the Liberals of Justin Trudeau. So I think that there is hope. And I think that Canada finally meeting its NATO obligations of 2% was a good start. The extra 3%, as I say, will include a lot of things that are infrastructure. They'll be there for long term, and they'll create a lot of jobs in this country. It doesn't require a tax increase.
Can I switch gears with you here and ask you about Bill C-5, which has not, it's not been smooth sailing. It's in the Senate right now. This was Carney's first signature piece of legislation, wanted to get this through quickly. Why do you think there have been so many hurdles, and where do you see this going?
Well, Canada's a G7 country. We're a complex democracy, a complex economy. Strong opposing forces are in place. They're playing out their predictable roles. You know, you've got the law firms that provide the advice to a lot of the communities that are saying, this could affect our rights. Look, if you're speaking about Indigenous rights, no constitutional right, no treaty right, no inherent right can be taken away or affected by C-5. What can happen is that you telescope the review process for big projects and you avoid overlap. Why do you have to have a provincial study and a federal study? Why can't you have two people at the same table? That sort of idea. Make it more efficient to get things through, or to say no when they're not appropriate. But I think that what's happening now is that a lot of fears are being stoked because, Doug Ford's Ontario government hasn't helped a lot because they were trying to take shortcuts. There are no shortcuts, Marcia, when it comes to Indigenous rights. And Carney understands that. I do think also that the very smart people around Carney are going to have to make sure that they have a good communications team because they've been good at pushing good ideas and getting them through. This one got through with the help of the Conservatives because Danielle Smith of Alberta said, don't you dare hold this thing up. So that was a brilliant political coup by Carney. But now they've got to learn how to sell this stuff. They've got to learn how to talk to people. And Carney has often been given that role. That shouldn't be his primary role. He's got other things to do. There should be the ability within this new government to actually explain and to work things out so that there is less resistance. Resistance is part and parcel of the legislative process. It's parliamentary life incarnate. Is what happens in real society. But at the same time, if you don't explain things, you do get resistance, and that resistance could upset things. And we'd be right back to the gridlock we experienced with the Trudeau Liberals. I don't think that anybody in Canada wants to go back to that.
I think we're already kind of there, back to that gridlock. And in terms of resistance, yeah, we absolutely live in a society where we're supposed to have government v. government resistance. It's literally the opposition party's job is to resist the government, right? On certain things, unless they're super stellar, which we found out Liberals and super stellar don't really run in the same sentence. But this is the problem, is a lot of the things that we're supposed to resist, or that the opposition is supposed to resist, are not even public. Like the budget, like where's the money coming from? Where are you getting the money for all of these ventures, right? And it's not just CTV that realizes this issue. It's also CBC going, hey, this might be a little sketchy. Let's take a look at what CBC's got to say.
Okay, you saw Donald Trump with Mark Rutte there. That's because NATO leaders have signed on to a new spending target today. There they are, promising to spend 5% of GDP on defense by 2035. And this is all going to lead to a major ramp up for the militaries of NATO members, something NATO Secretary General credits U.S. President Donald Trump with achieving texting Trump yesterday saying, "You are flying into another big success in The Hague this evening. It was not easy, but we've got them all signed on to 5%. So what does this mean for Canada? Well, Canada has failed to spend the 2% target on defense for years now, but Prime Minister Mark Carney has promised to get there by next March in 2026. But now the bar is being raised even higher.
5% of our GDP would be about $150 billion.
I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot of numbers.
Per year?
Per year.
That's a lot.
Of course, it
so
is
it means
a lot.
that
It is a lot. $150 billion is a lot of money to spend every year on the military, but the new rules from NATO split that 5% into two spending buckets. You've got 3.5%, or about $107 billion for Canada in today's numbers. That will go directly to things like jets, submarines, weapons, salaries, and training. But the other 1.5%, or about $43 billion, can be invested in defense-related infrastructure, things such as ports, airfields, or roads in the Arctic, or roads that get to critical mineral projects that have a military use. Prime Minister Mark Carney says NATO's new target was chosen to address new security threats and challenges.
That's a little cheeky the way he's done that, because he did, when Carney was presenting this, I think on CNN, he did say that this $43 billion would go towards potentially like railways, towards getting in and out of places where there's minerals, right, that could have a military use or whatever. But it's still kind of cheeky. I mean, actually, we're building a new stadium for the Blue Jays, and well, we're just gonna lump that as a defense budget because why not? Like, it could be a bomb shelter. Like, it's just kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird. I hope that it's not wasteful spending. I'm very hopeful, but I'm not optimistic. I'm extremely hopeful, because that's a lot of money. Look at that. That's $150 billion right on the chart. But that gets sucked dry by contractors, by advisors, and that's a huge problem, because when the government it's not Carney saying, okay, we're going to just look at these jets and we're going to buy 100 of them. Ooh, a submarine, a nuclear submarine, let's buy 2 of them. Ooh, ammo and gear, helmets and boots and gloves, let's buy that too. Like, it's not Carney making those decisions. Rightfully so. What the hell does he know about it? He hires somebody as a advisor, a contractor, and that contractor subcontracts to a bunch of greasy cockroaches who suck at the government teat, and that contract number just adds up and adds up. And, oh, we're over budget. Oh, we need a little bit more money because we're almost there. We almost have it all figured out as to what we need, right? And it just sucks our money dry. And so I usually suspect $5 or $10 billion easily wasted on stuff that could have been avoided easily. And that's historically what's gone wrong with a liberal government, is they don't crack down on this stuff.
The threats to our own sovereignty are becoming more acute. With increasingly open Arctic waters and rapid advances in cyber, in AI, and quantum, with advanced missile capacities, we can no longer rely on our geography to protect us. So together with our allies, we must ensure that NATO remains strong, unified, and ready to confront the threats not just of today, but of tomorrow.
Guy Thibault is former vice chief of the defense.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to end it there, but I'm extremely, I'm hopeful, but I'm not optimistic that the job is going to get done properly. I feel like the liberals have failed us time and time again, and this new messiah was supposed to fix it all and hasn't even been able to deliver a budget, which is part of our democratic process. So to me, that's a huge red flag right out the gate, as it is for you watching, if you're still watching. So let me know down below if this is a huge red flag for you, if you are optimistic about this, or if you're hopeful about this, or if you think that this is just gonna suck us dry and lead us into bankruptcy. I would really love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. As always, if you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.